Hello and welcome to the second video in a new series detailing the fourth version of the Savage Worlds rule set for Fantasy Grounds. This rule set is based on the core RPG code set and this has a number of minor changes compared to previous versions. To create this video I'm using the latest version available at this time. This is a development version of the rule set and additional functionality may be added before completion. It is anticipated that this rule set will be added to the test version of Fantasy Grounds, enabling a greater number of people to aid in nailing down any remaining bugs. In this second video, I'm going to be creating a player character and demonstrating the mini character sheet. For this example, I have created a half-elven character for a fantasy setting. He has been created using just the Savage Worlds Deluxe rulebook. This is the player screen of Fantasy Grounds, so we shall go to the PCs tab. We shall select Create New Character Sheet and double click it. It will open up an empty character. By double clicking that we bring up the character sheet and we can fill out the details. Now for race I can type half elven, however it is actually better if I go down to the library, go to the player's guide, go to races, drag and drop the half elf shortcut to there. I can still rename it to read half elven rather than half elves, but now when I click on it I have a description of the half elf rules and even have the ability to drag and drop the hindrances and edges. So we'll do that now. We'll go to the skills tab, we'll drag heritage into edges, we'll drag low light vision into edges, and we'll drag outsider to hindrances. Again, this means at any time you can just click on the link button and all the available rules are there. Going back to the first tab of the character sheet, we'll fill out the attributes. The derived stats is turned on, as you remember from the last video, so these should auto update as I fill in the stats. I will be holding down the control key and the mouse wheel to set the agility. I can also just pick up a dice and drop it on a stat. Both ways are acceptable for creating a character. We'll go to the skills tab. Now I can easily create a skill, but again what I will do instead is I will go to the skill list and drag the skills in. That way at a later date if I need to check the rules for any skill I can do so. I will drag in all the skills for speed and then adjust the dice afterwards. Notice that the skills are automatically sorted into alphabetical order and that the unskilled skill has been automatically created for us. Fighting of D8, a notice of D6, a shooting of D8, a stealth of D4, survival D6, a throwing D6, and just to show again you can just drag the stats or drop a D6 on. So if we go back to the main tab we can now see he has a parry of 6. Next we'll add his hindrances and edges, and I will create them using the drag and drop lists. We'll minimize that one out of the way for now and do his hindrances first. So he has a code of honor, he's loyal, and he has a vow. All of these we can update. So he took vow as minor, and his vow was to protect the forests. Any text entered here does not actually affect the original description of the ability, and again it links back to the rule set. So the hindrance is done. We'll go over to the edges. This character has 2 background edges. He's got quick and he also has luck. The final step will be to populate the inventory. So we'll go down to the gear section So the first thing we'll do is we'll give him his armor. He is equipped with leather armor. So we change the tab to armor, drag, drop the leather armor on accordingly. And here we may want to go right mouse button, add a modifier for his leather armor. Hand weapon table. He has a longsword, and on the ranged weapon table he has an English longbow. But English longbow not exactly very fantasy, so we'll change that to an elvish longbow. And notice that the damage for the longsword is only 2d6 because the elf only has d6 strength. The final thing is to add the equipment. So we'll go down to mundane items and I'll fill this out. For this campaign, the GM's decided he does want to use encumbrance, so with a strength of 6 his weight limit is 30, and as you can see that's already applied a -1 penalty. If later on we increase his strength so we can retype that to 40, the penalty will disappear. For languages, this elf can speak Elvish and Orcish. So the final thing to do is to pick a portrait. Again, the pix icon has been removed from the bar, so now you just click on the portrait itself, and when the window comes up you can pick a portrait from your list, drop it on there, and it will update. And at this point the character is ready to go. We will switch back to the GM screen and go to the PC tab on the GM screen. On the GM screen an extra square appears. When clicked on, it automatically populates the correct number of bennies for the character. In this case it's 4, as Erden Dustwalker has the luck edge. When we make an agility roll, the encumbrance modifier is automatically applied because I've picked up the agility dice. But if I pick up smarts or spirit or vigor, it doesn't apply, but again automatically the -1 goes in as soon as I pick up the strength dice. Clicking on mini brings up the mini sheet. Clicking on attacks brings up a blank box. Not very useful, so let's see what we can do to improve the mini sheet. If we go back to player mode, although the GM can do it, if we open up the mini sheet again, there's the mini sheet with the standard parry, toughness, your power points, your bennies, your wounds, and your stats there. So you don't have to open up the main character sheet if you want to roll your stats. If we go to the skills tab, any skills we decide the character will be using a lot, if you click on the small star icon to the top, it will add a shortcut to the character sheet to save you having to open up the main sheet. There is nothing to stop you to adding them all, but normally it's the ones you're going to use the most. Likewise, if you want to just create a shortcut, you can drag them straight down to the menu bar. Likewise, if you want to spend a Benny and you don't want to have any character sheet open, if you drag a Benny to the shortcut bar by clicking on the shortcut, you'll spend a Benny until you run out of Bennies. Sheet. The attacks is empty at the moment, but we can populate that by clicking our favourite attacks. Again, there is no limit other than screen size to how many attacks will fit on the character sheet, and when you pick the dice from the skill, it will automatically roll ranged for ranged weapons, melee for melee weapons, and thrown for thrown weapons. Sometimes certain weapons can be used differently. For example, some settings may allow one-handed weapons to be wielded two-handed. In this case you can create a sub-attack, give it a name. In this case we'll call it longsword two-handed. Maybe when you use it two-handed, your strength is counted as if it is one die higher. So again, we'll middle mouse button that, and you can see it treats the strength as one dice higher. The sub attack is automatically added to the stat, and when you attack, it will actually show that you are using the longsword in two-handed mode. If this character did have an arcane background, we would pick it from the type here. We'll pick miracles. This will automatically populate this section down here with a power list where we can drag powers in. So if we go back to the power list, we can drag in bolt, for example, or healing. Again, the correct skill will automatically be selected, in which case will be unskilled because this ranger doesn't have it. And again, if we click the favourites, it is added to the mini sheet under the attacks label. We can set the power points and the maximum power points, and also on the front sheet the powers can also go there. Bolt does 2d6 damage usually. Again, we can create a sub power bolt and call it improved bolt to let you do the 3 dice attack bolt. So again, if you want to cast that, you roll on there and then obviously roll the damage as usual. In addition, the rule set does provide the ability to add custom skills. If we go create entry and create a new skill, this might be an edge that isn't in the rule books, but you just want to support it. So for example, we shall have the athletics skill. If you click on the book icon, it will create an entry which you can populate. In here you must put the stat it's linked to for penalties, so this is an agility based skill. And then you can type what the skill does. For example, we can put some dice in that, we can add it as a stat, and now when we run athletics, because we've set it to agility skill, the encumbrance is still applied. On the notes tab there is an allies section. If the GM wants to grant the player an ally, we'll go to the bestiary section. We shall give the player a warhorse. It's added to his character sheet. If we go back to here, the player now has a warhorse and he can open it and see all the stats for his ally. Likewise, a player can create an empty ally and he can give the character a name. He can drag and drop weaponry equipment in, he can add specials, he can create skills, but the abilities and derived stats are blocked at this time. However, the GM can quite easily fill those blanks in for the player. At the end of the character creation phase on the GM screen, the GM can click this button here. It will give a character summary. It will list the attributes, the skill points, the number of edges, how much XP, and the hindrances. Unfortunately, this isn't clever enough to factor in racial modifiers, but it's usually a good guide of whether the character that's been created is rule legal. And that concludes this video on the basics of character entry and management in Fantasy Grounds using the 4th version of the Savage Worlds rule set. I hope you enjoyed this video and find it useful, and will join me for the rest of the videos in the series. This video is copyright 2014, and permission is given to distribute this video in its entirety. You may not edit this video in any way. Fantasy Grounds is a trademark of Smiteworks USA LLC, and Fantasy Grounds is copyright 2004 to 2014 Smiteworks USA LLC.